going in. Freeze, mother.
Are you okay, Terry? 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 Here's your word. Here's your word.
I was murdered.
You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because you're alive and you're basically intact. You weren't murdered, buddy. You weren't murdered, buddy.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and the COOF files, or the Pfizer files, have dropped on Twitter. And the main actor at the center of this is Scott Gottlieb. And it looks like there's been a little bit of activity here, including seeing Senator Ron Paul weigh in and other several prominent government officials weighing in on this. And that I actually finally like to see. Yesterday, we had the first kind of round of these types of files released by Alex Berenson, who definitely had an axe to grind, but it didn't really change what was in the tweets or in the information. Quick summary. Alex tweeted out, for those of you who'd rather see the whole Gottlieb Twitter thread, here goes. So he put it all out in a thread, which is what Elon wanted, I believe. I think he was mad that Alex linked out to his Substack so quickly. But you see, ultimately, you had Gottlieb, who's the main actor here, stepped in from Pfizer, emailing White House lobbyists and demanding censorship of United States citizens, in particular also doctors, sharing truthful statements about Pfizer's product, the poke. On August 27th, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, a Pfizer director with over 550,000 Twitter followers, saw a tweet he didn't like, a tweet that might hurt sales of Pfizer's product. The tweet explained correctly that natural immunity after COOF infection was superior to poke, the product. It called on the White House to follow the science and exempt people with natural immunity from upcoming mandates, a totally reasonable explanation or matter. Look, and I've often said, and I will say again, whatever your status is, that's your business. It's none of my business. I think that it's probably safe to say that there's a good bit of people experiencing some rage, some regret, some anger over, the fact that they were forced to get this. How many people say, well, you weren't necessarily forced, you made a choice. Yes, I suppose that's true. But sometimes, people have to support their families, their jobs, their livelihoods are on the line. And, they thought based on the information they had, they were making an okay decision. Well, now we're seeing all sorts of people feel very differently about that. And you have all these things essentially going on here with a White House correspondent and Twitter to censor doctors on Twitter. And this is quite the bombshell. We even got Rand Paul in, which is basically the only guy it seems like we can count on who will call these corrupt, put these corrupt people on blast. I thought it was Rand Paul. Maybe it wasn't actually, because the Gottlieb individual, it's very interesting. I thought it was Rand Paul, but I guess it wasn't. It was a different government official. But you have obviously Gottlieb going into full defense mode now, and his defense is perhaps one of the most hilarious scumbaggy things I've ever seen. I just want to remind people, Coffee Brand Coffee is my coffee company. We have a dozen organic teas. We have nearly 15 flavors of coffee. Now, a lot of our flavors are going away. So if you're interested, you can see already our fall flavors are gone. We've got eggnog on sale. We've got our white chocolate cranberry spice, our peppermint mocha, kind of the last of the Christmas flavors on sale. Make sure you get those today if you wanted to try those out. Obviously, our bestseller, blueberry cobbler, is something that I highly recommend people try out. We also have our dark roast and our light roasts, our Colombian in the middle roast, medium roast, and a bunch of different delicious cocos for you to try. So coffeebrandcoffee.com, promo code TheQuartering to save and support the channel. I know you're going to love it. Scott Gottlieb, of course, put out a Twitter thread in which he locked the replies because he is afraid. In the past, I've raised concerns with Twitter related to the safety of me and others. Wrong. I want to remind everybody that he was concerned about a doctor saying that natural immunity could substitute for his product, a product that they made $80 billion on or whatever. This is the original tweet. Nothing about this tweet is about this dude's safety, right? Nothing. This is like the typical leftist tactic where they'll say, like, I feel unsafe. I was getting threats on my life. And never actually provide any of them as examples. So I've raised concerns with Twitter. Why do you even have that pipeline, bro? Related to the safety of me and others, and threats being made on the platform. This includes direct as well as specific threats. Sometimes it included statements that I believe were purposely false and inflammatory. Again, so let's lead with the I felt unsafe, but we know the truth because we saw your email, bro. We saw your email, you scumbag. You see a lot of people. Dr. Andrew G. Huff, this guy should have a fair trial, followed by, well, I can't say that. Kyle Becker, you could put this issue to rest by releasing all of your communications with Twitter and show us what we're missing. I mean, you see a lot of people in here saying, it's true, Scott is on Pfizer's board, ex-head of the FDA. I was, quote, very wary. I didn't expect to find him to be so informative and balanced, but he was among first to advocate for masks. Balance on the poke. Musk makes him personally targeted by one of the lockdown's worst grifters. To protect the FDA protectors, the poke protectors are in full effect. And this is, by the way, again, this is what happens when you get busted. And everybody in here, like, hey, here's Cernovich, you're legitimately one of the scummiest people alive. Another self-righteous fraud that thinks he is the science. Scott, you need to own up to your role. Here's Dr. Urso in actively withholding information that would have saved lives. How many points with natural immunity took the poke and passed away as a result? That's on you. You were a bully and now you want sympathy. We call that sociopathy. I mean, Jake Shield, you belong in jail, law of self-defense. It would appear, Scott Gottlieb, that you're the Dr. Menengel of our century. I wish I'd gotten that reference. But, you know, Tim Swain, people are dead because you and your company lied. You know, a lot of people hit Jack Posobiec, delete yourself fraud. Yikes. That's a pretty, you know, specific take. He's just getting absolutely crushed on this damage control. A lot of doctors in here. Is this the Pfizer public relations team spinning his deeds? Advocating for censorship creates threats if it doesn't stop them? Most of this boils down to people being mean to him on Twitter. And I want to point out, this is somebody who, by the way, also disabled the comments and replies on their thread. That actively censored, got people labeled as misinformation, things like that, with Twitter, because he wants to sell product, in my opinion. He goes on, the selective disclosure of my private communications with Twitter stokes the threat environment. So does actions that empower people who've shown little restraint when it comes to purposeful vitriol. It instigates more menacing dialogue. Again, these are all about mean words. This guy made $350,000 minimum last year in salary. If the goal of the Twitter files is transparency, here's some of the private emails I have with Twitter related to the threats and safety, which weren't released. Nobody cares about people being mean to you on the online, dude. You're one of the most powerful people in the country. Former head commissioner FDA or whatever. Now you're on the board for Pfizer. And, you know, don't forget exactly what your job is on the board at Pfizer, right? Like, dude's actually using the same White House correspondent to get people censored off Twitter, and nobody's having it. This guy, and by the way, there was a time where liberals were against big pharma. Now that they suckle at their teat, now they're out here defending them. It's absolute disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. These people need to be brought up on charges. They don't get to be above the law. The whole thing, I think that what was one of the most disgusting parts about it is that, you know, we put together this condensed timeline, and then we forced everybody to take this thing, and then we said, Pfizer, you're not going to be held liable if anything goes wrong. Doesn't that seem odd? That Pfizer could, you know, have a terrible product that maybe did something very terrible, but they don't ever have to worry about getting sued for that. I don't think that's how corporations should be set up in this country. Now, I don't know if all these people are doctors, but a lot of doctors in the replies crushing this dude. This is what happens. Like, this is why so many people take like 500 pills a day and all this crap, is because of companies like Pfizer. They convince everyone they need to be on all this stuff. And if this guy was really interested in debate, I do find it interesting and pretty hilarious that the dude has turned off the replies. This was his response to being outed publicly. And again, this was not like some tiny thing. This was a Pfizer board member secretly pressing Twitter to hide posts challenging his company's massively profitable product. And in at least one case, Twitter agreeing. By the way, $81 billion is how much Pfizer made last year on the poke. And one of these other times are extremely suspect and diabolical, where he's asking somebody who's talking about, kids not needing it ahead of when they rolled out the product for kids. You could see why Gottlieb objected to Hart's words is not clear. But the Pfizer product would soon be approved for children 5 to 11, representing another massive market for Pfizer if parents could be convinced that the coof was a real threat to their children. Boyle referred to, quote, former FDA Commissioner Gottlieb when he forwarded the report, again ignoring Gottlieb's current work for Pfizer. That's on purpose, by the way. This was Pfizer working directly with Twitter and apparently White House correspondents or White House what do you call them? Lobbyists to censor the speech of not only American citizens, but medical doctors. And by the way, medical doctors who were sharing correct information, we now know. And that this was his response. But people were mean to me. Lock this dude up. Like, absolutely lock this dude up. You see Alex saying the comments on this are sad effort to defend Scott Gottlieb are stunning in the best way. People have had enough. They've seen the product fail with no longer accept lectures from folks who have been wrong for 3 years and won't begin to admit reality, much less apologize. Disgusting. Keep the pressure on. Hopefully they continue to release more files because the truth is what we all seek. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it and you subscribe down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.